So maracas, yes. Rape, no.
Shake
okay.
'em. And that is how we're beginning Mat Therapy today. Welcome. I am Donna Gonzalez, your hostess.
And I'm in tears.
Becky Dominguez
But
is
not
in
from
tears.
any rape.
Not from.
Becky Dominguez is my co-hostess with the mostest, and she's crying. Not raping to my right is Lee Syatt. And not raping to my left is Jay Tan.
That's true.
My left, actually.
You know how they have like participation trophies for soccer?
You didn't rape. You didn't rape.
Every
Hey,
time we don't rape, here you go.
in case anybody's wondering what the hell we're talking about, there was much discussion on my Facebook page this morning about rape.
Oh, is that
Or
where it...
more
Yeah.
specifically,
The
victim
More,
Facebook
blaming.
page.
more specifically, victim blaming. And, you know, anybody who's ever been raped, they didn't do anything to get raped. They got raped. What they were wearing had nothing to do with it. What they had to drink had nothing to do with it. Where they were had nothing to do with it. The only thing that had to do with it was they got raped. And the person who did the rape, they were wrong, and that's it.
100%.
And that's the end of
They
my
are
story.
100%
So,
responsible.
if everybody can just, you know,
Understand that?
understand that and maybe stop themselves from raping,
That'd be great.
that would be great.
Thanks.
The one thing that I do,
Please.
and it's not a huge.
Let's get right into the
It's not a
seriousness of
huge
it.
issue
Yes.
yet. Well, it is,
Okay.
but I think the one thing that scares me is when you hear people about getting. They say they were raped and it turns out to be a lie, or
Absolutely,
it doesn't
that's
have
horrible.
it doesn't have to be rape at all. It could be whatever sends people to
For
jail,
sure.
and it's not true. I think there needs to be some sort of punishment the other way, because that also
That's fair.
can hugely negative.
Well, yeah, it's
someone's life.
crying wolf. You can't expect somebody to take rape seriously when you have women using that as a tool or a weapon. And
I'm surprised more girls-
obviously, don't say that somebody has raped you if they haven't raped you. And you know what? Just don't rape.
Or if
Yeah.
you're just regretting a decision that
Right,
you made.
absolutely.
A decision.
Of course, that that doesn't go without saying, but no person who is advocating for proper, what's the word I'm looking for? Punishment for somebody who's raped is saying that nobody thinks it's a good idea to use it as a weapon. It needs to be exactly what it is, and saying anything other than the person was a victim and they got raped and end of story. Nothing is their fault. Drinking is not illegal. Being drunk is not illegal.
Passing out
Passing
from
out is
any
not
of this
illegal.
stuff is not a crime.
Not
But
okay.
it is dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Well,
it's not
lots
a crime,
of things
though.
are dangerous. You know,
It's
walking
dangerous to
across
her
the street,
health
you can
also.
get hit by a bus.
There's a
Yeah.
big difference between getting drunk and passing out and walking across the street and accidentally getting hit by a bus. Now, mind you, I'm not condoning, obviously, anything. I mean, we're talking about the Brock Turner case. That's where a lot of this
We are
is
talking about the
coming
Brock Turner
from.
case.
And, of course, you know, he can eat a giant, big, fat sack of dicks.
But saying,
and Adam
she
Pesky
was
should
drunk
be-
and she passed out.
Yeah, I'm not. No. There's no alibi to that.
It's putting the blame in the victim's corner.
Well, he's not saying that, but people are.
I'm agreeing with you
People are
that that's
doing
not okay.
It's definitely not okay.
Okay.
And
My
what-
question is, obviously it's not okay.
Yes.
But as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
how much of a responsibility do you feel to not put yourself in that situation? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but in the world we live in, do you worry about going and getting drunk somewhere?
Okay, to answer the end of that question, as a woman, you worry about your safety all the time. It is embedded in everything that you do. You walk down the street and you look who's behind you. You go to a bar and you watch your drink. You go here and you do this. It is embedded in women in everything we do from the time that we are 13. Don't get raped. Watch yourself. Protect yourself. Blah 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 blah.
Which
now,
is a sad
here I'm going to
commentary.
tell you a story. We're about to get deep. If you guys don't want to hear it, here's your warning. This is a story about me getting raped. Turn off your things if you don't want to hear it. When I was 21 years old, I think I was 21 or 22, I went to Havasu with a group of people. One girlfriend and 4 guys that I knew casually. I was friends with them. I kind of liked one of them. And we rented a condo and we all went to Havasu for the weekend. We were at the sandbar. No, we were at the bar in Havasu, and somebody put something in my drink. I went from having a drink to being completely blacked out. Now, the guys that I was with saw 2 other guys start to pull me out of the bar. They had one hand, each of my hands, and start to pull me out of the bar. So they saved me from these bad guys But then they took me back to the condo that we were staying in, and one of them raped me. So, here's my answer to that question. Do I feel like I was responsible for anything that happened to me? No. Because
You had...
if you were going to give a woman a checklist of things to do in a situation to keep herself from being raped, it'd be like, hey, be with people that you know and trust. Check. Make sure that you have guys there to protect you. Check.
Fuck that, but
Make
check.
sure you have a girlfriend there to watch your back.
Check.
Don't drink too much. I was only one drink in when somebody
Check.
put
You're
something
good.
into my drink. And it still happened to me. And so my answer to that is no, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't feel responsible for it. And the only thing that I have to say, like, the guy that raped me was my friend, was somebody I was there with, was somebody who felt like
Who you felt comfortable and
and then the next day he was like, well, you came into the room willing with me. Well, I don't remember anything that happened. So how do I know that I went into the room willing with him? All I know is I woke up naked next to somebody that I did not consent to being next to.
Right.
So anybody who has anything to say to a rape victim other than, I'm sorry you got raped and your body was violated when you did not give permission, go fuck yourself.
Word.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I can co-sign on that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll back you.
the fact that a woman has to have this checklist of things to make sure that she's safe and she's in a safe environment is an unfair disadvantage when it comes to equality of the genders, and it's a sad commentary on us as humans in society. It's also been unfortunately the way that it is throughout history. Dominant animals versus lesser. I don't want to say subservient, but or submissive, but
just physically
Well,
weaker, maybe.
What's that?
Just maybe in some cases physically weaker.
Physically weaker.
Yeah. It's a might makes right kind of thing, which is not right.
Thing. I fully believe that today, almost 20 years later, I am perfectly capable of defending myself in almost any situation.
Right.
I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I train women in self-defense. But if you drugged me, I still don't know if I could defend myself.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's all that training is kind of out the window at that point.
Yeah, and I'm sorry we got heavy, you guys. That really wasn't my...
No, it was in my brain because my girlfriend walks to the bus every day. And she told me a story the other day about she was walking and she saw this guy bike and ride by her and look at her. And then he turned down a street that she thought she thought she was going to turn down on the way to the bus. So she purposely didn't go down that street.
Uh-huh.
And then he turned around and she saw him again. And so she purposely had to speed up and she walked next to a guy. So he went away.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe this dude was just riding a bike around.
Who knows?
But as her boyfriend, I'm terrified. So she went and got pepper spray. But I told her right now she's studying for the bar, so she doesn't think she has enough time. But I'm like, Donna has another self-defense class coming up.
Yeah.
And
and look how... Yes, I agree with everything you're saying. And then look at the situation. She had it embedded in her, whether this person was just riding a bike and thought he dropped something and circled back. Her first instinct was, my safety might be in danger right now. Let me go stand next to a man. Let me go do it. You know what I mean? She did nothing wrong, and she did all the checklist of what she could do in that situation.
Or what she felt was the right...
Yeah. I guess what needs to happen as a society is the conversation does not need to be what women need to do to protect themselves going forward. We already do that. It is embedded in girls from the time that they walk to school by themselves. The conversation needs to be about consent, about men not thinking that sex is something that is owed to them.
Right.
That
some women too. It's
all
not
of that.
But
go ahead.
No.
You're the guest. You go.
Please. And I don't want to stay on this for too long. I didn't mean for it
neither
to get
do I. I
as
was gonna
heavy
show
as it
this
did.
to
And I
Mom,
apologize to everybody. I'm so sorry. Sorry, Jay's mom. I said fuck.
no, I honestly think it's
The words
important.
I tell her.
I
Okay.
think part of some of the discussion was also that everybody knows that rape is bad.
Right.
And yes, everybody knows that rape is bad, but everybody's idea of what rape is isn't the same, and that's
Correct.
why the discussion still needs to be had.
Correct.
So to say that we don't need to teach people that rape is bad because they already know that,
But we do.
because
We need to teach athletes that they're not.
in
To that point.
your situation, specifically in this guy's head, he felt like you didn't say no.
Right.
But
And he
you also
already
didn't-
saved me from the big
and
bad
you-
guys that tried to rape me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you owe that to him.
To that
apparently.
point, a big part of it is, I was thinking about what I wanted to post. I was trying to compose some words the other day on Facebook about this whole Brock Turner. Yeah, well, the thing is, the takeaway women obviously get the message very clearly because, like you said, the danger is ingrained in them.
Yeah.
It's taught to them very early. But from my perspective, dudes, like I read this case and I watched that clip of Ashley Banfield on CNN reading the rape victim's letter.
Oh,
Jeez,
I cried when I read that.
Yeah, I wanted to grab a knife and go out, and it's like it's situations like that where guys who are educated properly, who know that this is bad. You don't do that to people. It can drive them to violence. I'm not a violent guy at all, but there are certain instances when I really, duly think, I botched those words, but you get the idea. Yeah, could take a guy's life if it was deemed justified. And to that extent, like a Brock Turner situation, possibly so.
Yeah.
Somewhere between, the proper punishment is somewhere between 6 months in county and taking the life. It's somewhere in between there. I know that I wouldn't be right in taking the life.
Right.
But we do get incensed to that point. Now, what's the takeaway of that? It's that we have a responsibility on our side as men in society to listen to the victims, to get the fucking message, and to accept that there is there's no gray area of this thing. There's no, she was asking for it. She was drunk. She came in the room. She wanted it. No, dude, your alibi isn't good enough. No, there's no, I had it in my head the other day, but there's no, your case is not different. Your case it's just black and white. If she says yes, that's one thing. But if she's not saying yes, that's, at least for me, and I think probably should be the general guideline, that's the determining factor. That's a no. No answer is no. No certainly is no, asshole. Your situation isn't any different, Yeah. You don't get to go back afterwards and say, well, yeah, I got it. Now I can justify it because of point A, point B, point C. No, dude, you raped somebody, and you're a shithead for it.
And, you never, like, I haven't been with many girls, but I don't know many who would say yes to behind a dumpster.
Right.
Behind a dumpster.
Right.
On the ground.
It's a little...
With
like,
your clothes
in an
ripped
alley
off.
or something.
Yeah.
Right.
With pine needles. I don't know if anybody read her statement, but there was pine needles in her hair, inside of her, all over her. Not super comfortable. Not something anybody would consent to.
And this is a common thing. This is one case out of thousands.
Out of thousands and thousands and thousands. And I would defy anyone to ask any woman that they know, and at some point in her life, somebody has either made her feel unsafe or touched her in a way that she didn't want to be touched, or put her in a position that she felt that she could have, her safety could be in danger. It's happened to every single woman, period.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, I apologize. This obviously that's what this wasn't about. I let somebody get under my skin today, and then I came in and I started ranting about it.
Yeah,
and,
it's a hot topic right now too.
Yeah.
So, what'd you do this weekend?
Yeah. So, 10 minutes in. Fast
Nice
forward to 10
transition.
minutes.
I'm sorry. What did we do this
UFC.
weekend?
We went to the UFC.
Sorry, Lee.
Yeah. Sorry, Lee. The the U of MMA, who is here in representation through J-Tan.
One half of it, yep.
One half of it took all of us to the UFC, and it was awesome. We got to see some amazing fights from top to bottom card, and it was an awesome experience.
Intense knockouts.
Yeah.
I think that was probably one of the best cards so far this year.
I agree.
Yes.
And certainly one of the best times I've had being able to not work, just simply watch and enjoy as a fan. That's the best one in a very long time. I'd be hard-pressed to come up with another show recently where it was that much fun, to just sit and watch. And I've been at a couple of really strong ones, but mostly, under the guise of work. Covering for some website or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was great. I mean, this was action top to bottom. Crowd was hot.
For sure.
Company was excellent. Right, Becky? Huh?
Yeah. It was awesome, and we got to see. I'm Uriah Faber is the first MMA fighter that I ever started following. I saw some kind of, maybe it was an MTV documentary or something on him before I ever got into the sport, and I started following his career, and he was the first fighter that I ever became a fan of, and then Hendo, obviously, and it was so exciting to be able to see them fight, and the energy when they came into the stadium, they got bigger cheers than the champ when they both walked in. I would argue that the two biggest cheers of the night were for Hendo and Uriah when they entered.
I mean, Uriah comes into California Love, and who doesn't like that song? Come on.
I don't think it's the song, though.
I know, but I think some,
Yeah.
But I agree.
It was awesome. It was good times, yeah.
Ask someone that might have been the hardest fight for me to watch was Dominic Cruz versus Uriah Faber. I was literally watching it through my fingers.
She was having a complex there.
She's a fan of both. I don't know why you're a fan of Dominic, but yeah.
And I tried to.
Have you not looked at him and seen him fight and everything? All the things?
He doesn't do it for me. Sorry.
Oh.
Girl talk. It really was fascinating to watch her watch this fight, or semi-watch the fight, because there was such emotional torment sitting 18 inches right next to me. She couldn't figure it out, and she was up in her feet. I had to pull her down to sit down because I didn't want her blocking the guys behind us. Her, and I wasn't sure, like, the resistance. I wasn't sure if it was that she was caught up in her emotions, or was like, leave me alone, asshole. Probably a mix of each, but I tried to equate it because I do understand that that angst of being in the middle of two people that you truly love. Yeah. I was explaining Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Jake the Snake Roberts. Jonathan, shout out to this. You got this. This
podcast
you co-signed
is about jiu-jitsu and combat sports, not pro wrestling.
When Jake the Snake Roberts attacked Ricky the Dragon Steamboat on Saturday night's main event,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Pearl harbored him from behind after the match, and then
Pearl Harbor. What?
Pearl harbored him. Yeah, it's a sneak attack, and pulled out the mats right next to the ring, and then DDT'd him, jammed his head on the concrete there, and Ricky Steamboat could not wrestle right afterwards. He was on the disabled list, and no one knew if he was going to come back. And you had to watch Superstars of Wrestling week after week, and every week check in with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. He had a crushed larynx. A crushed larynx!
Jay.
And you had to check in every week to see if he was going to be okay, if he was going to be able to talk, and there would be an episode, and you would see Ricky Steamboat with the doctor who would check him, and they would say, "Okay, Ricky, try and make this sound.
J-Tan.
Make B." And he was
J-Tan.
B, and it didn't happen that time, and so you had to watch the next week, and then the next week, and the next week, and finally, Ricky Steamboat came back, and he got a match.
Don't bang the table. I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
Don't bang the table. And how did you start your career in MMA?
And then finally he got his match against Jake the Snake Roberts, and it was emotional torment. I didn't know where to go because Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was this great All-American babyface, kind of Bruce Lee of pro wrestling, and Jake the Snake Roberts was this cynical, diabolical guy you've never seen before.
So you started working with Elite XE
he would tell
as an assistant
about how you think that you've got the mastery of the devil, but the devil plays in hell, my friend, and the devil controls heat, and he's going to bring the heat.
All right, that's
on.
enough. All right. Okay. So you started working at Elite XE as an assistant.
I understand what Bex was going through with Faber and Cruz. That's
okay.
Are we done talking about the UFC though? That's just.
Well, we'll circle back around to it. Jay, how did you start your career in MMA?
In a very weird roundabout way. I'd been out here. All right, short version of the long story. Came out here for film school in '98. Went through USC film school in the Peter Stark program, like you do, and worked in the business for a while, and realized I was kind of on a dead end track. I was jumping from one assistant's desk to another. I was working for one particular company, and it was a production management company. They had writers and actors as clients, as well as producing films of their own. So one day, Randy Couture comes into the office to meet with one of our director clients.
What year was this?
2003, I'm guessing.
Okay.
And he comes in with his manager, who's a guy named Jeremy Lappin, his manager at the time. And I was the only person, of course, that knew who Randy Couture was. I met some pro
Who's
wrestlers.
that guy with the weird ears standing in the corner of the office?
So I made a point. I left my desk and buzzed out to the lobby area. Of course, when the phones are going crazy, and made a point to introduce myself. I knew who Randy was, but I wasn't really following the sport as much as I would later on, and kept in touch with Jeremy. And I knew at that point there was something, because I was kind of at a crossroads in my career. I knew that getting into MMA, it was close enough to pro wrestling, which was a childhood and adulthood passion, and it was an industry that I knew was coming up. So I knew that it was the right time, like it was getting in on the ground floor. And I decided that I was going to transition from film and TV, even though that's what I've been thinking of doing for my entire life, to MMA, to cage fighting. And I didn't care. I figured that there was a middle ground. At the time, I was thinking I could manage these guys and help some of the older guys. At the time, Jeremy was managing guys like Rampage, Boss Rutan, Randy, of course. He later got Ken Shamrock for a quick time. And I figured that I could be the guy to help them break into Hollywood.
That makes
film,
sense.
Yeah, film and TV opportunities. So it was a good way of balancing both worlds. Capitalizing on the industry that I knew and had studied, and then also breaking into a new market and maybe being ahead of the curve of everybody else. Lo and behold, it was only 10 years before that actually took place. Once Gina started getting roles, Gina Carano, or Randy breaking out with the Expendables. That was a huge thing for MMA and pro wrestling. Like, that was kind of the moment when people said, "Oh, these guys that fight, we could put them in movies for pretend fighting, and people would love it because they already know how to fight for real."
Because they know they really know how to fight.
Yeah. So clearly we were onto something there, but just far too much ahead of the curve. So jump ahead a year. I finally get to work full-time for Jeremy. We're managing fighters, and we kind of are setting up that paradigm that I'm going to help these guys break into film and TV, send them on auditions, get them in the room, and Jeremy would help me, would teach me how to be a fight manager.
Okay.
That lasted about 3 months before I go into the office and Jeremy says, "Well, I've been hired to revive the WFA," which was the first of a long series of fight promotion lily pads that I'm jumping from one to another, which has lasted about 10 and a half years. And so before I knew it, we were fight promoters. And neither of us really knew what we were doing. But this was a fight promotion that had run a couple of shows in Vegas, smaller shows, and somebody had, the owners, I guess, had decided to revive. I guess they had enough bankroll again to bring it back. So we built this thing up. Now, this is era 05, 06. We ended up running a single show in July 2006. In retrospect, it's funny what a stacked card it was. Now, the MMA landscape was so different at the time.
You guys had it here in Los Angeles?
It was at the Forum, no less.
Oh,
the old Forum.
right.
Yeah. So, this weekend was kind of full circle with me in the Forum.
That was the last time you'd been there, right?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. And God, the upgrades, really nice. Definitely a step in the right direction. The main event was Boss Rutan coming out of retirement.
Nice.
I forgot who. Oh, he was going to fight Kimo Leopoldo.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Kimo got busted. He tested positive, and they had to pull him. The CSAC pulled him from the show. So Boss ended up fighting a last-minute replacement named Ruben Villarreal, Warpath, who was a great local character, kind of a bit of a journeyman fighter.
King of the Cage guy?
Yeah, King of the Cage guy. The undercard was Rampage making his debut, his first match back since being at Pride, against Matt Lindland at 205.
Yeah.
Matt's a world-class wrestler. Mayhem Miller, this was the beginning of Mayhem's climb into mainstream notoriety, even way before that, frankly. U.S. debut of Lyoto Machida.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah. And who almost got booed out of the arena.
Got booed out? Why?
Because the match was people had never seen Lyoto fight before, so they weren't used to his style. They didn't know what to expect, and it was 15 minutes of just circling around.
Who was he fighting?
I believe it was Vernon Tiger White, who was a training partner of Ken Shamrock, longtime Lions Den guy, and I'm 90% sure it was Ruben Tiger White, and they were just circling each other, and I don't think that anybody, I don't think even really Vernon White was ready for Machida's style, which was very counter-striking.
Well, even now, a lot of people don't have an answer for his style.
Yeah. So people booed the shit out of the match. At one point, Vernon steps back from the crowd and just flips off double fingers. He's like, fuck you guys. I'm fighting here. What do you want? And again, 2006, this is an era of uneducated fans for the most part,
right.
People didn't
Are
know.
Are they educated now?
A little bit more.
There are some who are educated. I would say not the cute, massive people in the crowds, but there's a good chunk of people that are really educated about the fights.
A bit more, yeah. I mean, I thought it was a
when
decent.
I hear people booing,
booing. Oh,
that was the thing. Yeah.
No bueno.
I mean, personally,
I don't handle.
I'm not super educated about it. I've been watching it for a few years. I respect what Lyoto does. I don't like watching that style of fighting.
Yeah.
But would you boo him?
But you wouldn't boo him.
Well, if 2006.
You know what? To be honest, if you're spending that much money, I think there's a difference between, at least for me as a fan, there's a difference between people grappling, people going for jiu-jitsu stuff, and that was the Lyoto, and I could just be thinking of the wrong person, but Lyoto fought Nick Diaz, correct? A couple years.
Different weight class.
Who fought Nick Diaz a couple years ago? Who has the same sort of style? Maybe I'm thinking
Anderson
of the wrong
Silva?
They
No,
fought a year and
it wasn't.
a half ago.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was he always looks angry. I don't know. I forget his name. It doesn't matter.
Musasi?
No, I'll look it up but it was the same sort of fight.
Maybe Evangelista Cyborg?
No, I'll look it up. It doesn't matter. But if you're paying that much money, that's why I think it's too bad Mighty Mouse is the way he is, because I bought a couple of Mighty Mouse's pay-per-views, and it's just.
It's him evading the fight the whole time.
No, not
evading.
He's not evading. It's just not as exciting.
Not the word. Not
up until
hit.
this last fight where he was the co-main event, and it was an amazing fight.
Are you talking about Machida versus Dan Henderson?
No, Machida's not the right person. I'm looking it up
because
right
I'll
now.
tell you.
Are you saying that Mighty Mouse isn't exciting? We're totally getting off topic.
No, well, not
is it because he's good at not getting hit?
No, it's not. It's just they're not. It's not that Mighty Mouse isn't exciting, but those kind of fights aren't as exciting to watch.
that's
because
fair.
they're not slobber knockers.
Right.
They're not like the last 15
You just
seconds.
wanted an excuse to say that word.
It just comes naturally. They're not pure six brawls. They're not all-out wars like the last 15 seconds of Holloway and
that was
Ricardo Lamas.
fantastic.
People love that stuff, yeah. But
people
those
can't-
same people don't realize that.
If they try and do that for 15 minutes,
They can't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
can't necessarily
impossible.
do that for 15 minutes.
Sorry, Carlos Condit. Sorry.
Carlos Condit always looks angry?
and Robbie Law. I thought that's what you were going to
Condit
bring
Diaz
up. Was
you're
just
talking
that.
about.
Condit Diaz. I think Diaz is the one that always looks angry out of those two.
No, but Condit has that.
He
has that
does
stare.
do that. That he gets in that zone.
All right.
And I know Condit doesn't always fight like that, but that for me was my first time seeing a fight like that.
Condit Lawler could be up for one of the best fights this year, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That goes without saying.
Okay. Focus.
Sorry.
Anyway,
Lee's kicking us out today, so we only have a certain amount of time.
Machida's match did not go well, even though he got the win. But it was baptism by fire for me with fighting.
Wait, did you make those matches?
No. Oh, God, I wish.
I was like, whoa.
The very first match I ever made never really got to fruition. So we did that show, and there was a lot of talk about, when was the next one? It was initially going to be like September or October in Vegas, and then it got pushed to December. And this was a time that a lot of promotions were coming up. We didn't have what's the word? We didn't have the failed projects, the history of failed projects like the IFL, like Affliction, Elite XC. We didn't have all of this legacy of guys that talked big, spent a lot of money, and failed miserably. We were right in the middle of that. It was right before that. So we were one of those. And we started signing guys for the second WFA show. I did, ironically enough, get to sign Carlos Condit, and I was going to book him against. It was my suggestion, and then Jeremy would officially
make the match.
pair it up. Yeah, but Carlos Condit versus Jose Pele Landy Johns, who is a pioneer from the Brazilian Vale Tudo days and a star in Pride. It was a bit of a young guy versus an OG veteran.
Okay.
But it was at 170. I was very psyched. That was the first match that I said, hey, these guys make sense. We got them under contract. Before I knew it, and during that time, we also signed Uriah Faber. We signed Gina Carano.
All of these people are on WFA?
For a hot second. For a cup of coffee.
Awesome.
Yes.
For a cup of coffee.
And before you knew it, December, we kept getting delayed, and the rumors were out about us being sold. And I'm thinking, no, that's not going to happen. No, this is the start of my career. No way, we're going to go. This is going to be a thing. Some early December, I remember walking into the office and clicking on MMA Weekly, and there's a big notice. The front page headline says WEC bought by UFC. And I am shocked by this.
Wait a second.
Whoa.
You've been saying WFC this whole time.
I'm getting to that point. No. I worked for WFA, World Fighting Alliance, but WEC at the time, of course, they were running their shows out in Lemoore, I believe. And they had their own roster of guys. They didn't have TV, I don't believe, but they had a bunch of guys that we would later get to know, in the ranks. So this bombshell hits, and I'm thinking, Jeremy, what does this mean for us? Well, we've got our own problems to worry about, so let's focus on that. Go to lunch, come back to lunch. The headline says, and also WFA. Same day, 2 announcements. I don't know. I don't know how much Jeremy did or didn't know. I mean, we were suspect about these things because we'd heard the rumors. But, boom, all of a sudden, I'm out of a job. All of a sudden,
Wait, because that's when UFC was buying promotions to dismantle them, not to continue them.
I don't know that was necessarily a campaign, but that's what happened. Yeah, right. And that was kind of the spark of everyone going, oh, okay, the UFC is now kind of like WWF did, Vince McMahon in the 80s, buying up smaller territory or poaching them for their talent.
That makes sense.
But yeah, in this case, it was just simply buying them out and taking the contracts, and that's what happened. And that's why WEC got Uriah Faber. That's why the UFC got Rampage, got Lyoto Machida, and a bunch of other guys. I think they could have had Mayhem as well, but he ended up not going with them. So I'm going, shit, what do I do here? At the time, I had known my friend Turi Altavilla, who was at Pride. We were acquaintances in passing. And I'm having lunch with Jeremy. He says, I'm not quite sure what to tell you, but maybe you want to give Turi a call. So I did. And Turi was at a different point in his career than I was. He'd been in the sport for 5 or 6 years with King of the Cage, and then he went to Pride, and he was there for a long time. Turi has some stories. I got some stories, but Turi got stories. So, we were talking, and they were building up to a second Las Vegas card. Pride had already done one card there, which was headlined by Coleman versus Fedor. I think, if I remember correctly, Hendo versus Shogun Hua. Was it that, or was it? Or maybe it was Kevin.
That was the first time they fought?
Yeah, it was the first Pride Vegas show. Mm-hmm. It would have been 2007 in October, I believe. Or maybe 2006 October. So anyway, I talked to Turi, and he says, yeah, I could use some extra hands. And he knew that I had been through hell with WFA, that baptism under fire. He knew I had been in the trenches. So January 2007, he brings me on, and I start working for Pride for probably about 6-8 months or so. I helped them with the second Vegas show, which was Diaz versus Gomi. What was the headline? Oh, Dan Henderson knocking out Vanderlei Silva and winning the Pride welterweight title, which was actually 185 pounds or so, but they called it welterweight for whatever reason. So that happened. That was great. That was fun. Got to see the big stars. I'm going WFA, Pride. Holy shit, my career, even though these companies are flopping, I'm seeing some really major shit, right? Second Pride show for me is in April 2007. That's the very last show. By that point, the UFC was openly in talks of buying Pride. Dead again in the water. And I'm going, Jesus, what's wrong with me here? What am I doing wrong? By that point, Elite XC maybe that's the fall. Elite XC starts to gain momentum. They form. By that point, Jeremy is now working over there. Turi has had a name in the sport, and so they court Turi, and Turi ends up over there. A few months later, I finally end up over there as well, and that's when I think, we got Jeremy, we got Turi, myself, we're all under one umbrella. I think that I'm safer. Company is supposedly publicly traded. There's real money. There's millions behind it. Doug DeLuca is a producer for the Jimmy Kimmel Show. He's one of the heads there. Gary Shaw is an experienced boxing promoter with varying degrees of success and failure.
Plus, there's the NBC contract. Is it NBC or CBS?
Showtime. They were working to get
Showtime.
Yeah, like okay. we ended up being on CBS and Showtime as well.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't involved. So here's the thing. I was involved with, there was Pro Elite as the umbrella company.
Okay.
And then the U.S. fight promotion, their flagship promotion was called Elite XC.
Yeah.
That's what you guys all watched, Showtime and CBS. It had Kimbo Slice, rest in peace, Gina,
that was
Nick
such a
Diaz.
To hear that.
Yeah. It's been a hell of a week for weekend for MMA. In combat sports as well, with Muhammad Ali, the greatest.
For sure. We'll talk about him before we...
Yeah, so I wasn't involved too much with Elite XC itself, but in the same way that the UFC had bought Pride, WEC, WFA, Pro Elite's model was to buy up a lot of smaller regional promotions like Cage Rage in London, Spirit MC in Korea. It was a partnership. There were 2 Hawaiian promotions, Rumble on the Rock and Icon Sport, or Super Brawl / Icon Sport, which had all had these great cards and reputations in those regions. And the idea was to bring them all under one umbrella, Pro Elite, and to be able to do talent trades and send guys internationally.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like a league. It's like a league.
Exactly, yeah. That was the idea. Now, unfortunately, all the shit with Elite XC happened. So, once again, I mean, the things... the brawl on CBS between Diaz and the Scrap Pack versus Mayhem Miller, that turned off CBS executives in a big way. Ratings were great when Kimbo was on, and I think Gina as well.
Yeah, but then Kimbo got knocked out because of
jump ahead, and that was
he wasn't ready for that level of fighting it.
Yeah, the thing with Kimbo versus Ken Shamrock, and then Ken pulling out of the fight due to a cut on his head, being replaced by Seth Petrozelli, who knocked out Kimbo, took a lot of steam away from the company. And then Seth going on air radio talking about how one of the Elite XC executives, who I will graciously keep anonymous, went in his locker room and asked him to stand and bang with Kimbo. Yeah, you just don't do stuff like that. But he said this, so to be clear.
Well, to be clear,
to make sure
you don't ask a fighter to do that, and then you don't go and talk about your promotion on air.
To make sure I get the facts straight, Seth talked about this on a radio interview the day after the fight.
Okay.
And that caused waves throughout the community and certainly throughout Elite XC and CBS. Seth later went back and said, well, I'd been partying and I was kind of groggy in the interview. He kind of backpedaled a little bit on his words. I don't know if this necessarily happened, this conversation between Seth and the executive, because I wasn't there. But a lot of people were talking about it, and people had their suspicions of who it was, and etc. So Elite XC flops. And I'm thinking, Jesus, what am I, the stinky kid of MMA here? This sucks. This is a sport I love. I'm busting my ass for it. They don't seem to want me here. I'm apparently not supposed to be here. So the company goes under for that and some other reasons as well. And this is 08, 09, I believe, early 09. And we're sitting here twiddling our thumbs going, what the hell do we do here? At that point, this is when I start to branch out on my own and get back to my writing roots and start covering events for 5 Ounces of Pain, which is a news website at the time. Had a couple of I was managing the amateur fighters at Legends.
Yeah.
There were a couple years I was trying to figure out where's my place in the sport. And God, that is, it was a scary time because I didn't feel like I was getting any momentum, busting my ass as much as anything else, truly wanting this, but nobody's giving a shit.
Right.
So it's I'm figuring out, and this is the time that I'm actually really learning more about the sport. All these other promotions, it was pretty high level stuff, and there were executives and offices and this and that. But this is that time when I'm actually reaching out to fighters, talking with them, interviews, and transcribing, their words. I'm learning how to be, for lack of a better phrase, an MMA journalist and a manager as well. I'm learning what is it about fighting, and what do the fighters need. This eventually segues into Jeremy Lappin forming CAMO, California Amateur MMA Organization, which is the first time that amateur MMA is regulated here in the U.S. or in California. And so Turi and I, we don't have real jobs yet at that point, so we start working for him as lead inspectors and running these amateur events. Turi turns to me at one point and says, "You know what? I think we can do better. We should do our own show. Why not us?" Because he, at the same point, had gone from lily pad to lily pad to lily pad.
Right.
And so we sat down in his living room, and he pitched me some ideas of things, and we came up with the University of MMA. And it's the first time that we've been able to have our own thing, to do our own show, call our own shots, and that was 2010, I believe.
That was our first show.
April of 2011 was our very first show. So it was about half a year of brainstorming.
Was it?
And
I felt like it was in 10.
April 17th, 2011. I will be victorious at Avalon Hollywood.
At Avalon. It was awesome. Yeah.
And that's been that was the long build up to now.
And now you're a fight promoter.
5-year run. Yeah. I get to call myself a fight promoter.
I think that's awesome.
What is different going from professional to amateur events? Is it the same thing, just amateur fighters, or how are the events different than maybe like a bigger or a professional?
Size, for sure. And then also the pay situation. You don't pay amateur fighters. And there's a dubious, conversation to have about that, about they're beating the hell out of each other. They should get paid for it. We do compensate fighters with commissions on ticket sales, which is what a lot of pro promotions do as well.
Yeah.
It's a time. I mean, a lot of it is kind of where the fighter is at mentally, and the experience. That's kind of the barometer. This is the first time that they're jumping into the cage and seeing if they want to do this. At the pro level, the market's wide open in terms of where you can fight, who you can fight. There is still the state athletic commission guiding what matches are fair and what's not, but at the same time, if I'm a young, inexperienced fighter and I go pro, I have to. All these pros are guys that have far more experience than I do, and it's not really. There's not a chance for me to develop my skill. Whereas at the amateur ranks, you do have that chance, and once you go pro, your amateur, your record just goes back to zero.
And there's layers of safety precautions when it comes to the amateur fights. Like if it's your first fight, everybody coming in has to wear. They have bigger gloves, and they have to wear shin guards, and you have to have a certain number of fights to be able to take the shin guards off, and then the time's also regulated. What's the time for minutes?
Both fighters have to have more than 3 matches in order for there to be the option of 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Right.
Now, they both have to decide and agree on the time. And if one says 3 minutes, one says 2 minutes,
you have to do
it's
the
2 minutes.
Yeah.
But if both fighters have less than 3 matches, then it's automatically
then they're required
2 minutes.
Shin guards.
And how do you find how do you find your fighters, or are they contacting you saying, "Hey, I want to be on your next show"?
Bit of both. I have a list of almost 200 fight gyms throughout the Southland, Southern California, NorCal, even Vegas and Arizona. But a lot of them are reaching out to us through the Camo website, or I'll put my info out there, Facebook or wherever. So they're reaching out to us saying, "Hey, I want to get on this card." And my job is to make sure that if I can book them, I'm booking them against somebody with even
equally
experience,
matched,
size, age. Because the idea is for these guys to get experience, have a good time, and feel like...
And showcase their skills.
Showcase their skills, yeah, and feel like it's not a waste of their time, that they do all this work training and sacrificing for nothing, for getting blown out of the water.
Right. Well, and you do. I feel like we do a great job at the U of MMA, if you've ever had the opportunity to come to any of our fights and see any of our cards, all of our fights are exciting. The fights are very well matched up, and you start with at the beginning, and you'll see our most inexperienced fighters, but they're also matched up with other inexperienced fighters. So you have the opportunity to see them grow, and then by the time you get to the main event at our cards, it's guys that are ready to go pro, and they put on pro level fights, and it's really exciting to be able to not only watch these fights but also see the fighters grow. We'll have guys come and fight for us 6 times, 4 times, 3 times, and you'll see them grow as fighters. And it's, for me, it's really fun and exciting because I love the sport, and we're literally seeing the sport develop.
Yeah. That's the thing. I remember I get that kick out of knowing that I've given, I'm going to call them kids, some kids or
they're
young,
kids when they fight for us.
Yeah. our kids, our fighters. The chance, like, this means something for them. This day means something in their lives, and I love that we're able to give that to them and do it well. There's a bunch of fight promoters out there. There's a bunch of shows all over the place, and kids can go and fight. Some of them are in a gym, some of them are in a hotel ballroom, some of them are really great, some of them not so much so, and everything all in between.
Yeah. I feel like we give them a taste of what a pro show is like, though.
Oh, yeah, we
the
definitely
lights
do.
and the cameras and the everything.
And a lot of that's credit to Turi, his vision, and also the staff and the team at now called the Novo, formerly Club Nokia, Mark Girton and all those guys. It's a great venue. It's an upscale venue. Turi knew about this place. I didn't know about it, and so a lot of this was is Turi's vision of putting this thing together and making it look good. And I think I kind of, obviously I recruit the guys, and I think at weigh-ins, kind of set the tone. We all really set the tone, the way that we handle things, the way that we do business, set the tone of cooler heads prevailing, there being systems in place, organization. I think that's a huge thing for these kids. It's a nice place, but it's also organized. They go there, they can ask a question, how does this work? We have an answer. And they go, okay, that's how it works. And we provide for them, as many other people do, food or, some goodie bags, sponsorship, swag, whatever. Look, all guys do, a lot of fight promoters do that. Some of them don't. And those are the ones that stand out as, those aren't the guys I necessarily want to fight. But we have these things. And when fighters come, they see it, they're impressed by it, and they have a good experience. And that's why a lot of them want to come back and fight. And this is what a promotion should be about. This is, we get a lot of pro fighters saying, when are you going to do pro-ams? I want to fight on your card. And I'm hugely flattered. I wish we could provide. That takes a bigger nest egg to do. And, we're focused on building what I call ambassadors of the sport, the kids tomorrow. I wish that we were around for the pro fighters.
The future.
But,
maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
Maybe the University of Mixed Martial Arts will graduate to the world of mixed martial arts.
Something like that, yeah.
It was interesting when you said earlier how you spent a couple years not really knowing where you wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm just starting to come out of that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's a very frustrating point. But my question is, if, let's say, you had the opportunity to start U of MMA during that period, do you think it would have done as well as it had, or what I'm guessing is, even though it might have been a tough, shitty couple years,
did you have to go
that
through
you
it?
learned and that it
Oh yeah, it was still baptism under fire between Turi and I. I don't think that in terms of success, I think if we'd started a few years earlier, there would have been other kinks to work out. We would have figured things out earlier. Other things would have come up later, and we would have had to deal with that. I don't think that it would have been nearly as successful to any extent if it wasn't Turi and I. He and I had a long legacy of working together and being in the trenches and having each other's back. We're very much cut from the same cloth as people, I think. We're pop culture nerds. And we believe in, I think we've got a similar moral background. We believe in doing things a certain way and being straightforward. And we, I think, bring that to each other in our partnership. And that's a big part of why the U has been able to grow to the point that it is and have the reputation that it is. Because it's not Jay, the sleazebag, sleazy fight promoter that'll do anything to get a kid on the card, and then Turi handling things properly and
right
and fairly. It's the both of us. It's the both of us trying to be fair and making decisions together. And that's a big part of why we're at that point. And by the way, to your point that you feel like you're just coming out of that, it never quite leaves. I mean, I still feel that way, day in and day out. But I have these shows. We have these shows that we can look back on and say, that was a great day. That was a great day. We had this awesome run this year. And so we can know, we have that faith or that legacy of knowing it can be done,
Yeah.
And that's what we're going for with the next show too.
I think to a certain extent, all of us go through, like, nobody ever gets to the place they're like,
yeah,
there's no
gonna go take a nap now. Shit's good. Like,
it's
no.
I think I said it last week. It's a journey, not a destination. It's
sure.
not a destination. It's a constant journey.
I think we're all trying to figure out how to.
And I think everybody going through those times. I've been going through it. I'm still going through it. I know, but that kind of is what brings you to where you're meant to be. So
sure.
you going through that would, is what brought you to where you're at right now.
Yeah.
And will continue to.
I think all of us. Yeah.
For everyone.
I think everyone will continue to, as you grow. What's my next place? What's the next thing I'm going to do? What's the thing that can help me go to the next level or my next goal or whatever it is?
You want to make sure that you don't forget those lessons, and that's always a checkpoint. I mean, you can forget. We're human,
right?
But those are the lessons along the way that you learn to make yourself better and your career better. It ain't always easy.
Amen.
But, yeah.
If it was easy, everybody would do it. So now, you guys are U of MMA fight promoters, and then you took us all to the UFC this weekend. See, I told you I'd circle it back around.
Credit due to Turi as well. That's a Turi thing. I was riding on his coattails, but...
and thank you so much for that.
Shout out, homeboy.
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much, Turi. And also, I've said this to you privately. I will say it publicly. Thank you to the U of MMA and you and Turi for sticking with me and helping me grow as a commentator. You guys... I didn't know anything when I started doing post-fight interviews and I started commentating, and you guys stuck with me and helped me grow and coached me through it, and thank you, because I know a lot of people had been like, she doesn't know what she's doing, get her out of here, and you guys didn't, and you believed in me, and I appreciate that. That's
another case in point. We're figuring this thing out as we go along, and we're putting our best foot forward, and we've grown as promoters. I would be really reticent of calling myself a fight promoter when I first started out, even though I'm doing the job,
Yeah.
But now that I've got some semblance of competency, I can feel good about saying that. And by the same token, you've come into your own. Absolutely. I knew that you had the feist and the attitude.
Well, it's just it's the same way as the learners, the fighters are learning how how to be a part of this. You're learning that was your growth and you're learning, and I'm sure there's a lot of learning that you've.
Oh yeah. The lessons I've picked up along the way.
There you go.
So, speaking of lessons,
everyone's learning. It starts here for everyone.
It starts here.
Oh, got that?
It's not just the fighters. It's not just the fighters.
That's sweet.
BeckyDominguez.com.
Under construction.
No.
We haven't gotten there yet. Thank you very much.
But since we're talking about it, we were at the UFC. There were some exciting fights, and Becky has a huge opinion on one of them. And what I said earlier was, first of all, it was really cool to possibly see Hendo's last fight in person. Anybody who's not a Hendo fan, you're probably not an MMA fan.
Well, while we're on that one, I want to put this out there for Please. The last 2 or 3 years. Every time he's fought,
true.
I love him. Don't get me wrong. There's been some fights and there's been several fights in there where I'm just like, maybe
everybody
it's
has. So maybe if he's going out on this high note,
it's probably time. But then he comes out with shit that he did on Saturday. And then I'm like, I eat my words.
But it could be time, and he said this could be his last fight. It could be time to go out on the high note, and why not?
Beautiful way to end.
If we got to see him go out on that high note, amazing.
But I'm not going to hate on him if he wants to continue after that, because that was good.
And same thing with Uriah. I think there's plenty of fight left in Uriah.
I think he's got more.
If for some whatever reason he doesn't, if I got to see two of my favorite fighters' last two fights, or close to their last fights, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I've never been a Michael Bisping fan. However,
She's
I really
prefacing
enjoyed.
the next part with that.
I have never been a Bisping fan, but I wanted to hate him, and then I really liked his post-fight interview, and I was like, okay. And then he went to the post-fight conference. I was like, yeah, you're a dick.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like different shades.
For the 2 minutes he was giving his post-fight, I was like, oh, okay.
So there was
the guy's British. Don't you understand a lot of that? Like, he's already in the mode of selling a fight.
Not all Brits are assholes.
No, you're totally right. And Michael Bisping is not an asshole when he doesn't.
He says he's an asshole. Why can't I?
When he doesn't want to be. He can be a nice guy.
Anybody
we can all be. We can all be.
Yes, and any Brit can be an asshole.
Yeah.
The thing is, Americans really don't like that dry British.
No,
That's not the dry
That's not
British
true.
thing.
I love dry. I can't speak today. I love dry British humor. I'm all about it. But that's not.
Give us your opinion on the.
That's not British humor. That's just him being an asshole.
A British asshole.
Here's my issue.
brasshole.
And I believe I might have been yelling at you as well at the time that this was happening. But did anybody not notice? I couldn't hear it at the time. Obviously, we were there. There's no mics in front of him at that moment. But right after he knocked out Rockhold, you see him go up to him, and you just by the body language, you can see that he's taunting him.
Okay.
So I was irritated already, so I didn't really catch the post-fight at that point because I was like, he's up there taunting him. He just knocked him out and he's taunting him. That's fucked up.
Why's that fucked up?
Because that's fucked up. After the fight and you knock him out.
Reason.
Even the most hated fighters, even Dominic Cruz and Uriah Faber, who supposedly hate each other, which I didn't believe until recently. They still, after their fight, go up and hug. They shake hands, and everybody's somewhat friendly.
The only time I could see justifying that is if somebody is actively talking smack to you while you're fighting them, and then you knock them out. You can be like, "How you like that, bitch?"
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. I like cockiness. They're fighters. They just knock someone out. If I knock somebody out, I would jump on their face.
What would you say? Tell us what you would say if you.
I have no idea because I'm not going to knock anybody out.
You don't know that. Believe in yourself, Lee. You might knock somebody out someday.
Let's compare Rockhold Bisping 1, the end of 1 to the end of 2.
Okay, but if we're comparing,
they both knocked. Rockhold knocked out Bisping
no,
in the
submitted
first, or submitted him. Sorry,
Okay.
He submitted him,
and then he walked over and picked him up.
And he walks over, he picks him up, and he tells him how much respect he has for him.
Okay, but can we also, if we're comparing, can we talk about what a dick Rockhold was in the cage after he lost and in the post-fight conference? I'm not saying. Look,
I don't think that he. I think he was upset. And I think the way he lashed out at him was based on him being a fucking asshole. Was Bisping being a fucking asshole?
I'm not saying he was being the bigger man. Actions, then don't be a dick.
I'm not saying that he
take a loss like a man.
I don't think he.
I think he took it like a little bitch.
Yeah, he took his gloves off. I've never seen that before.
Took it like a little bitch. He did his post-fight interview up against the cage like that. Oh, calm your fucking self down.
I missed all the post-fight interview. I watched the press conference, not the post-fight interview.
This is any great Hulk Hogan feud.
Okay.
This is The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin continuing to build the seeds because we know that we're going to get a third match.
We're grown-ups.
We only have 5 minutes left, and it's not going to go to
Stone
WWE.
Cold Steve Austin and John Cena, and they're doing pretty well.
Pay attention. We only have 5 minutes left, and it's not going to go to pro wrestling. Stop that.
Okay.
All right.
What's your favorite tag team?
No.
What was your favorite WrestleMania?
Look,
mine was 30.
We're grown-ups.
Look,
when Chris Benoit won the world championship,
you got 5 minutes, and it's not going to wrestling. But since
I'm just going to shake them rock.
To be clear, for anybody who complains that we didn't talk enough about jiu-jitsu, we did say it's two jiu-jitsu ladies talking about all things combat sports. So sometimes it's not always all about jiu-jitsu, but there is something regarding jiu-jitsu that I do want to talk about. Jay started training.
Suck at it.
I've been trying to get Jay to do jiu-jitsu
for training again.
Years. And somebody is back on the mats, and I'm so proud of him.
Yeah. Woo! Thank you.
Yay.
I jiu-jitsu the other day.
You did jiu-jitsu the other day?
Monday, yeah.
Nice.
I got killed.
Good.
It hurt badly.
Yeah, it's going to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sounds about correct.
No, yeah. I hate it. Jiu-jitsu really sucks.
Yeah, but you got to keep going.
But, yes. I do have to keep going.
You have to keep going until it doesn't suck anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
there will still be periods of it sucking.
Yeah. Throughout. No, I totally get that. I'm sold on that, and that's the big thing. It's not about, believe it or not, it's not about this blows. In the first year, it's going to suck, and then you get past that. I accept that because it makes a lot of sense. I wrestled in high school for 4 years. I was horrible. Including the forfeits, I might have had a 500 record. Maybe.
Why'd you keep going back all 4 years?
And that's a fascinating thing. In freshman year, I was just a kid. I didn't really have any friends. I wasn't athletic. I needed something to do, and I was angry. It's a whole other podcast episode, but I was an angry motherfucker, and I needed some kind of outlet. And actually, because of pro wrestling, amateur wrestling was the closest thing to it. There wasn't any pro wrestling around there, so I'm like, well, might as well do amateur. And
might as well do the real thing. Yeah, can't do the fake thing.
Exactly. And it was a good learning experience. I dropped a shitload of baby fat. I went from like 159 at the beginning of the year down to July, because I kept training after the season, 125. Jesus. And I was like, damn, this is good for me. Yeah. And I learned so many great principles and stuff. And I remember the last day of the season, the coach saying, you'll be in a different weight class for next year. Next year. Yeah, right, like I'm coming back. I don't know why I went back, but I went back. And I went back the junior year and senior year. And I love my wrestling history. As bad as, or my legacy, as bad as I was, the things that I got out of it, they're the same principles that I see in jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. So I know that I accept and I kind of laud that I hate jiu-jitsu right now, because it's the same thing. It's the same agony and hardship that I got from 4 years of amateur wrestling.
Yeah.
And I know that it's going to pay off, even if I continue to suck, even if I never get to blue belt level. That's okay.
You will.
Maybe I will. I'm going to stick with it. When I say jiu-jitsu sucks, I hate it, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm questioning whether I'm going to keep it in my life. No,
for sure.
It's in here. Now I'm at a crossroads where I'm starting to build permanent things in my life that I want to be permanently, and grappling is one of them. Mm-hmm. Whether it's 10th Planet or whether it's gi or wherever, whatever, grappling is going to be a part of my life. I want it to be.
Yeah.
And that's a no-brainer. I'm 100% sold on that. So, yeah. And I do love a lot of the people in 10th Planet. I've known so many of them for such a long time. It's a good community for me to join at this point.
We're pretty awesome.
So it's fair to say jiu-jitsu changed your life.
Oh.
It will.
With the catchphrases all day. Becky with the catchphrases.
Amateur wrestling certainly did, but I'm allowing jiu-jitsu to do so. So don't get on your high horse yet.
So, okay, before we wrap up, speaking of things that change all of our lives, I don't think any of us would be into combat sports the way that we are unless somebody like Muhammad Ali existed. So if we could, I just want to acknowledge him, mm-hmm. And the legacy that he left all of us who love this sport. He's the reason that the flashiness exists, that all of that exists, and that we have. That we're even having the conversation about Bisping talking shit over Rockhold, who he knocked out. Like that, mm-hmm. that iconic picture of Muhammad standing over
George Foreman, I think?
Whoever it is
or
that
Sonny
he knocked
Liston.
out. Like just the badass picture of him knocking him out and standing him over him. We have the version of combat sports that we do today because of this man, and then we also have all the social issues that he brought to people, the forefront of people's brains. And
he was an ambassador for humanity.
Thank you, champ. We will absolutely miss you, and he's the reason that we have the sport now.
And I know
firmly believe that.
We're rushing, and I'm switching topics.
Please.
But here's the list that Becky needs to address here. Goodfellas.
Wait, it's because Becky's never seen any movies. If you haven't watched the first couple episodes of our podcast, Becky's never seen anything.
Practically
I've seen
nothing.
Some, but
she's seen 3 movies.
Apparently not important ones or something.
Well, a few important ones, clearly, but you can take some of these off the list if need be. But here's your list. Goodfellas, Casino, Godfather Part 1, Godfather Part 2,
those.
Aliens, the Star Wars trilogy.
Nope.
Back to the Future trilogy, The Princess Bride, Carlito's Way, Citizen Kane, Night of the Living Dead,
yes,
Dawn of the Dead,
yes,
remake or original. It should be the original. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, When Harry Met Sally, Airplane 1 and 2, Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad, Big, Clerks, RoboCop, the original, Devil's Advocate, One Flew Over the School.
Devil's Advocate.
Go see the Devil's Advocate. It's awesome.
That's good.
Shout out to Nana Greenwald producing on that one, my old boss. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Shining, Titanic, Avatar, Terminator 1 and 2, Life is Beautiful, Stop Making Sense, Talking Heads, concert. I know you're a music geek. You'll love that one. Wall Street, Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Richard Pryor live in concert, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Monty Python.
J-Chan, wrap it up.
Brian, I'm almost done. Trainspotting, 28 Days Later, The Usual Suspects, Toy Story 1 and 2, Ghost, A League of Their Own, They Live, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club.
I would say about 50%.
You get to go back and watch this and write them down.
No,
later.
I've seen about 50% of that list.
Not bad. Okay,
I would
say
pay to watch Citizen Kane. You'd fall asleep within 5 minutes. I can't believe you put that on the list because I went to Emerson Film School. So
nice.
Oh yeah.
But no, I can't. Citizen Kane.
know that.
Can we do that as a podcast?
That's really cool.
Let me come in again. Let's watch Citizen Kane and record her
falling asleep. Apparently,
Citizen Kane, Birth of a Nation, double feature.
My head.
Okay. All right, we got to wrap it up because Lee is a very busy man and he has things to do today. Bex, give your shout outs. We'll do our Spotlight Lady next week.
Shout out to our friend Freddie Chavez for the love and support. Oh, sorry, was I not close enough? And you were at the UFC. Sorry, we missed you. Our boy Chris Ramirez for all his love and support.
Yes.
And
well, we have a second if you want to do Spotlight of the Week.
Do
Really?
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
let Becky finish.
And then
I'm sorry, Becky.
Just whatever. It's just me. No big deal. Just ignore me. Be over here. And then on Twitter at Agent Soda, at Agent Orange Soda. For all the love and support there. So
and then of course,
well, we gave our personal love to Turi.
Thank you, Turi, for everything.
For everything. Yes.
So our Spotlight Lady this week, her name is Charlene Coates. She's from California, but I don't know where Half Moon Bay is. I'm assuming it's Northern California.
Northern California.
Northern California. Charlene is a black belt in both Jiu-Jitsu and karate. She's 32 and she's a black belt.
Thank God I said we could do it. She would beat me up.
Right? She started doing karate when she was 9 and Jiu-Jitsu when she was 23. She is now an IBJJF world champ, a Pan champion, an American national champ, a U.S. Open champ. She is the women's and fundamentals coach at Raul Castillo Martial Arts. She's also a nanny. She's a badass. We're super proud that she's representing our sport. And if you are in the Half Moon Bay area, wherever that is, the first Sunday of every single month, Charlene holds an open women's class for anybody. I think she said it's $10. Look up Raul Castillo Martial Arts in Half Moon Bay. If you want to give Charlene some love on Facebook, she has a fan page, Charlene Coates, Coats, and her Insta is Charlene_Coates. Give her some love. Thank her for representing the sport, and you're a badass, Charlene. Thank you.
I think that this show, I've said this to you personally, but I'm proud of all three of you for doing this and growing it. I know it's a work in progress, but I think it's such a fundamentally important thing. One, I know that Jiu-Jitsu is a passion for you all, and to be able to talk about it, it's a fun thing for the rest of the community can relate to. But especially also, I think that there is this, because it's the both of you, there is this thing about, I think you're contributing to women's empowerment, which obviously is something that I don't think in this society we can get enough of. I don't think that there is. It's going to be a long time before everyone says, okay, all right, now you're overdoing it with the ladies, with the women power stuff.
The women have enough empowerment.
I think
women, tone it down now.
Yeah, like people don't realize all the benefits of jiu-jitsu in general, the world, society, right? But by even more so, especially for women, I think it's such a beneficial thing. And for you two to be able to talk about this with conviction and be able to present, this is something that can arm women, for lack of a better phrase, build them up, their confidence, the strength, physically and mentally. That's something that's needed in society, and you guys are doing that with this thing. So I'm flattered to be here.
Well, thank you. But you are here because we want to talk about the U of MMA. So when is our next show coming up?
Okay.
How can people find you?
Talk about here.
Oh my God!
I'm just kidding. June 18th is University of MMA. I don't know if camera's on there, but
it is.
Okay. Tickets are available at uofmma.com. It's at the Novo in downtown LA, which is at LA Live, across the street from Staples Center. June 18th. Doors are 5:30. First fight is at 6. we are stacked. We've got, at least right now, somewhere between 17 and 19 matches. So
damn,
you guys will get your money's worth, I promise. Yes,
and people can watch us online about a week afterwards. Everything goes up on YouTube,
The matches go up on YouTube. Yeah, it's youtube.com/U of MMA. Might not be a week, might be 2 or 3 weeks, depending on when we get the video footage edited. But all of the other matches are there, so you can see what we've been doing there. Check out the Instagram, the Twitter, and the Facebook. The Instagram and Twitter are at U of MMA. Mm-hmm. Facebook is the U of MMA. And let's see. He's
got to scroll.
You want to eat at the park's finest in historic Filipino town. You want to support Sessions LA. Buy their music from Bandcamp. Excellent after-school music community student training program. Buy the new Aesop Rock album. It's awesome. It's called The Impossible Kid. Josh Gross has a book coming out on the 21st about Muhammad Ali versus Antonio Inoki. It's awesome. I'm at JTAN716 on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But visit my website, BeckyDominguez.com. Recall Alan Persky, fuck that guy, and fuck Brock Turner. The Far Side is playing at the Novo 2 days before our show on the 16th, Thursday the 16th, $10. I will be at Pete Rock and CL Smooth on the 20th at the Troubadour signing autographs. I won't have a table. You guys just find me and I'll sign something. You bring your own pen. Legitimately, I'll be interviewing Josh Gross on Monday the 20th as well, 4 p.m. Pacific time on Book Circle Online, which is a YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Book Circle Online. We'll be talking about the Ali Inoki match and his book. J-Day is July 16th. That's my birthday. Go to my Amazon wish list and feel the burn.
For those of you that are listening and not watching, he literally has a scroll.
I'm going to post it. I took
literally
a scroll. So if you want to find Becky from now on, you can go to...
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
BeckyDominguez.com is finally up.
Yay!
Thank you again to Tiomir in Bulgaria.
Yes. And if you want to follow Lee Syatt or get consulted on any podcast needs, where can they do that?
They can go to leesyatt.com and just... Jay, I feel like we have a connection here. My birthday is July 20th, so
nice.
while you're buying Jay's birthday present, I'll take any of those movies on Jay's list.
Do it.
Oh, there you go. Blu-ray special
Jay
edition.
Day, Lee Day, all the days.
You can yell at me for my rant at donnagonzalez.com. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. Peace out, bitches. Thank you. Bye.
Toodles.